What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the last couple of days, there have been a lot of talks around the PlayStation 5 and backwards compatibility, and now it looks like several listings are being spotted on the PlayStation Network that could be pointing towards PlayStation 3 backwards compatibility. We're going to go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo issuing warnings around different fake websites looking to impersonate them and potentially scam you out of your money. And we're also going to be talking about a long-running franchise that could be making its return for Microsoft. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Dying Light 2. It's coming out in a couple of weeks now, and I'm getting pretty excited for its release at the beginning of February. And they have been doing some updates leading up to the release, like the 500 hours thing that turned into the whole thing online where we had like different charts and scenarios laid out for us. But it does appear they are planning quite a bit of post-launch support. We can see this tweet from the Dying Light account saying, "Want to know what will happen after the premiere? We guarantee to expand the world of Dying Light 2 Stay Human for at least 5 years post-launch with new stories, locations, in-game events, and all the fun stuff you love." This is not surprising at all, since they have been supporting the first Dying Light for a while now, and the idea of them continue to build off of something that it was a very ambitious project to complete makes sense. They would like to add more content to it, charge for some, I'm sure do others for free, and then probably do several other editions of Dying Light 2 in the future. Who knows? This could be a game that ends up on like the next system, like the PlayStation 6 and all of this. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Dying Light 2. Good to hear there's going to be a bunch of content even afterwards. Also, it looks like there's going to be a big update coming to Halo Infinite when it comes to the cash shop, which has been a very controversial part of the game. We can see this tweet posted up by Jerry Hook saying, "We've been monitoring the discussions on the shop bundles and pricing closely since launch. Using data and community feedback, we're going to begin rolling out changes to how we package and price items in Halo Infinite, and it all starts next week. Starting Tuesday, the shop experience will vary week to week. We are focused on reducing pricing across the board, providing stronger values in our bundles, starting to put individual items outside of bundles, and more." And that's been the biggest thing, is certain pieces of armor or coatings have been tied to bundles that, yeah, look pretty expensive considering they're mostly just cosmetic items. I think my biggest part, though, is I'd like to see updates outside of the cash shop. I know they feel like they got to get the cash shop right. I get it. That's how basically it's all making money. But I would like to see some new maps thrown in there, different modes, just different things to do necessarily in Halo. That's the biggest thing that these free-to-play live service games need, is consistent updates and new things to do. So here's hoping they have an event coming up, but here's hoping they have more outside of just that. Like I said, one of the big parts would be a new map to play on. Oh, and do you remember we talked about Konami doing their NFTs for the Castlevania anniversary, and they were going to auction them off? Well, that did happen over the weekend, and I was paying attention to them because I was just curious to see how they would do. Turns out Konami did shockingly well with them, making over $160,000 selling these. Seriously, you can see them here. This is on OpenSea, where they had them listed before as the auctions were going. Now they're at like ridiculous amounts of money, and I assume that's just the people who bought them are then putting these outlandish prices on them in the event that I guess they become like worth it for people and they come in and buy them. But I mean, some of these were going for over $10,000. There was one that went for over $21,000. That's the Dracula's Castle pixel art. And I mean, Konami basically just found some money under the couch cushions here. And I have to imagine Square, who has come out and been pretty excited around metaverse, NFT, blockchain, all of this, is paying attention. I wouldn't be shocked if they did something with Final Fantasy. And we know NFT stuff from Konami. They have made it pretty clear that this is for an anniversary thing, which tells me you're going to see other properties from Konami do NFT stuff. Like, I think Metal Gear Solid could be next, and it wouldn't shock me if that popped up and did even better than these Castlevania NFTs. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony, the PlayStation 5, and backwards compatibility. We're kind of expecting them to announce this Project Spartacus thing here in another month or so. It could be at any time, since that seems like something they would just push out through a blog post, since they are more or less reorganizing their subscription services into this tiered system with apparently games from legacy systems. PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP have all been named, but the PS3 is still apparently going to be streamed. Except people are finding things on the PlayStation Store that may contradict that. We can see this tweet here, and a lot of these were cataloged by VGC as they were being made. Jordan, for example, said not to panic anyone, but a PS3 game shouldn't have a price when viewed on a PS5 unless, and we can see Dead or Alive 5 there with a pricing, and that is not on PlayStation Now in Europe, as was pointed out here by VGC. And that's important because we have had glitches before, as I saw Mystic Ryan even point this out, with different games, especially on PlayStation Now, where they would show a price, even if it's like a PS3 title or something that's not actually available on the PS4 at the time. And it looked like you could buy a PS3 game and just download it for your system. So that's sort of what we're looking at here is, okay, maybe this is a bug for something like Dead or Alive. But then people went through and started spotting other games like Bejeweled, Prince of Persia, Forgotten Sands, The Two Thrones, and at this time, more and more people are going through just seeing if any of these different prices will pop up. And this has become a very interesting conversation online, since the idea of backwards compatibility with PS3, I think by most people, have been written off at this time. Like, we've seen them do PS1, PS2, all of that, and sure, PSP makes sense. But the PlayStation 3 is such a complex system to emulate that it seems like something Sony, who wasn't really that on board with backwards compatibility or more retro titles, would spend that much time doing. We have seen projects like our PCS3 that actually do quite a bit to where you can just boot the cross-media bar now in an emulator on your PC, which is great. They have like 4K mode and all kinds of enhancements done. But the idea of having all of these games be downloaded to your system and play them as a subscription service like we see with Game Pass is compelling, and if the library is good, I think they're going to do pretty well with it. But I will say that would be a pretty big disappointment if it is indeed streaming for the PlayStation 3. I'm still anticipating that it will be, but it'd be a pretty big surprise if they said, look, all this stuff you can download and play, and then here's Metal Gear Solid 4, because we do need that game off of the PS3 and available in more places. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo issuing a warning to Switch owners, specifically about fake websites. This was posted up over on Nintendo Japan's website, where they say about fake sites spoofing Nintendo homepage. We have confirmed the existence of a fake site that impersonates the Nintendo homepage. These fake sites have nothing to do with us. The fake site confirmed this time uses our logo illegally, making it look as if it's operated by us, and we purchase our products such as Nintendo Switch at a significantly discounted price. Purchasing products on fake sites may result in fraudulent damage, such as unauthorized acquisition of personal information. Please be careful not to mistake it for a website, and do not purchase products from fake websites. And they go on to link to the actual Nintendo website, and they go on to link to different places you can consult when it comes to cybercrime, all these different things. Now, this is not necessarily new. We have seen websites pop up for a while that will show you very, very cheap items, and the idea of them existing is legitimately to just steal information and scam people and phish people like their emails and their names and address, all this stuff. In fact, we've seen articles like this one here written up showcasing some of these websites. Now, these don't exactly impersonate the Nintendo site as well, and I think they probably found one that got really close to what their website looked like, and they were like, nah, we gotta issue a statement here. But like, here are just a few of them, and the idea is they'll show you something like a Nintendo 2DS XL for $30 or $40, and you're like, wow, that's a really good price. Let me go ahead and punch in all of my credit card information and everything else they need in order to make this happen, and then the product never arrives, and all of a sudden you start getting alerts from your bank that somebody is using your card on the other side of the world. So while I'm sure most of you, this is obvious, like, oh yeah, that it's too good to be true, probably not worth punching in my bank information just to see. Just be careful when it comes to this stuff and stick with the official sites from Nintendo or retailers. Don't get too far out there with some weird looking websites hoping you can strike a deal for like 30% off, because at the end of the day, it's generally not worth it. But just a heads up in case you missed it, Nintendo, yes, is concerned about people using fake websites, and I have a feeling one looked very similar to Nintendo's site. They didn't point it out. Obviously, they don't want to give it any attention. Just keep an eye out when you're browsing around for different deals and stick to the official places. Next up, let's talk about Killer Instinct. And this is one that has really made the rounds in the rumor mill, especially over the last year or so. There's been a lot of noise from the Killer Instinct community, the fans of the game on the Xbox, especially like the Xbox One, as that was ongoing. And a lot of it has to do with them making another Killer Instinct game. But there seems to be a bit of an issue right now, and this has been made apparent by Matt Booty and Phil Spencer. They're having a hard time really finding someone who can make a Killer Instinct game. The Killer Instinct game now that you can go on Game Pass and check out is a very good fighting game. Fans of that series that we have really like the outing there. Although I will say it was a bit odd out of the gate. I mean, it was strange because it was done in seasons, and it just never, to me, felt like a complete game up until really towards the end. But take a look at this here. This was posted up over on Windows Central, and I'll leave a link down, of course, to the sources because it was a pretty good read. What's the deal with Killer Instinct? Microsoft's painfully underrated fighting game has slipped into the shadows for now. And this is from Jez Cord, and he goes on to talk about the idea of Killer Instinct making a return, and in order to solve, potentially, that issue of finding someone who can make the game, Bandai Namco was brought up. Now, I mean, I'll read this to you here. I have also heard the vaguest of unsubstantiated rumors that one of Bandai Namco's fighting game development teams may be involved. And that, I think, would be a good idea for Microsoft to do. Bandai, their fighting division has done a lot of really good work. Think of Soul Calibur, Tekken. I mean, they've worked on Super Smash Brothers. I would say they certainly have the experience and the pedigree to pull off something like Killer Instinct. And that's the biggest part here, is you really need to get the right people together who are very passionate for the franchise and fighting games to do it correctly. And really, it does make sense for Microsoft to bring back Killer Instinct and have their dedicated fighting game for the Xbox brand. Take a look at Sony. They've locked up Street Fighter. We know, of course, Nintendo has Super Smash Brothers. So Killer Instinct for the Xbox, I think, would be a good fit and something they can continue on throughout the Xbox generations. Like I said, the thing they run into is it's not worth doing it unless they can do it right, because if you make another Killer Instinct, well, the old Killer Instinct is still there, and if the newer one's not as good, people will just go back and play the old one. You'll feel like you kind of just wasted your time. But yeah, I'd be curious to see Bandai Namco work with Microsoft on a new Killer Instinct game, see how it comes out. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about NFTs again. Did you think we were done? I told you guys, NFTs are going to continue coming up because a lot of these companies in gaming are going to be looking into them because we just saw Konami make $160,000 out of nothing. So yeah, they're going to keep doing that. And now we're going to talk about SEGA and NFTs. This popped up online over the weekend, and people went a bit crazy online, but I might have some good news with this. Maybe let's take a look, because two trademarks popped up. Let's see them here. We have one, as you can see, big picture, SEGA NFT. And then the other one is SEGA Classics NFT Collection. I wonder what SEGA Classics NFT Collection could be, because we just saw Konami and their Classics NFTs. Yeah, that of course, there was quite the reaction online, but these were applied for at the end of December, and they were made public, like I said, over the weekend. If you remember, back during their financial results, that was in November, we did hear from the CEO at SEGA mention that they were investing in new fields such as NFT. And then later on in December, probably around the time that these had been filed, maybe a little before, that they were going to continue looking into them, but they would back off if it's perceived as simple money making, and then they would make a decision not to proceed. So I kind of feel like right now it's too early to say that SEGA is jumping in headfirst into the NFT game, but I feel like there's a lot of pause now looking at what Konami was able to do here, finding that kind of money and leveraging IPs that probably have a lot more value even than where Castlevania is currently. Still though, I'm holding out hope. I think SEGA is seeing the response online and they're just kind of hang out for a bit and let someone like Square take a shot at it next, because Square is going to take a shot at this in some way. Maybe they don't need Final Fantasy 14 if they can just do these, I don't know, digital animated screenshot, like those kind of things that Konami did, and probably make 10 times the amount of money. How much money do you think Final Fantasy NFTs would make if that's what Castlevania was able to generate? And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, will Sony announce locally running PS3 games for PS5? That's no streaming. You download the game and it plays right off the PlayStation 5. 23% said yes. 77% said no. I think that's still the way to go right now. I mean, it would be a pleasant surprise if they showed up and they said, yeah, you can download any of these PS3 games that are part of that subscription, play it locally, no input lag, latency, or bandwidth needed necessarily like we have with other streaming services. I looked at Stadia over the weekend. It's gotten better, but PlayStation Now's streaming is just not good. Like it's probably one of the worst streaming experiences you can have now when it does come to picture quality and latency. And they've mentioned they're going to work on that more as they go along, but I think I just prefer PS3 games to be completely local, obviously. I mean, if there's no other way to do it, at least it's there, but I would like to see Sony make that investment and make these PS3 games work. I mean, they're going to add them a couple at a time. It's not like they're going to say, okay, we have this one like solution that fits everything. You can play all the PS3 titles at your disposal. Now, we'll probably see like 4 or 5 added as we go along throughout the year, you know, every month or so. And that'd be nice to see them really get in, like, on board with this idea of backwards compatibility and start providing them at like a local level in your system. But I'm not holding my breath. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Blue saying, Orphan was the first game I had on PS2. It wasn't that great of a game, but it was amazing coming from PS1 and only got better. Probably the best times I played. Yeah, if you remember back then, going from the PS1 to the PS2 was an eye-opening experience when it came to the graphics. And we don't really get that anymore. Like going from the Xbox One to the Series X to the PS4 to the PS5, it's not anywhere near as noticeable as was then. So even a game that's not good like Orphan didn't matter. It just looked incredible. So we were like, wow, this is better than anything I've ever played on the original PlayStation. That's just how it was then. We were really on board with a lot of those initial releases. Then, of course, you got some of the bigger ones. Final Fantasy X came out, just ran over Orphan completely. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the PlayStation 5 and PS3 backwards compatibility. Will Sony be able to pull this thing off and we could play those PS3 games locally on our system? Let me know about that. Also, what about Nintendo and these fake websites? Have you seen them around, or maybe did you almost fall for one? And then also, what about Killer Instinct? Would you like to see Killer Instinct come back? And what do you think about Bandai Namco maybe helping out? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.